That's great. And I'll start the introduction again. So hello everybody and welcome to our event, the first from Herefordshire Green Network this year on thinking of an electric car this year. I'm delighted to have David Smith from Cleeveley EV with us. That's a company based in Cheltenham. He'll probably tell you a bit more about it. And I think quite a lot of the established, convinced, experienced EV drivers on the call today will have been to Cleeveley for service, possibly to buy a car, sell a car, or have come across Cleeveley at one of the community events in Herefordshire. I should say a bit about HGN. You may not be a member. If you're not and you're in Herefordshire, please do join. We have about 1,000 members, mostly individuals, but around 170 organisations and businesses, parish councils, etc. as well. If you do join, you'll get our magnificent HGN weekly news, which brings you up to date on everything going on around the county. Anyway, as well as David Smith, we have Gordon Coppock from HGN, who lots of you will know as a proponent of EVs and all sorts of other energy efficient things. We'll also hear from Ant. Give us a wave, Ant. Ant Barraclough, again, who lots of you might have met at local events about EVs and going electric. For my own part, I've been driving an electric car for over 10 years now, going from quite a small one that really didn't want to go very far, and I was a little bit nervous about putting the heater on in winter, to one now that will happily charge up on a long journey, 20 minutes while you're having a cup of coffee. And it's a very different, comfortable world. Anyway, enough from me. I'm going to stop sharing now and ask David to just say a few words about his firm, his background, and then we'll launch into some questions. And I should say, when it comes to the questions, we've got a lot lined up, but I'm sure that you've got some more that you would want to put into the chat. So please type them into the Zoom chat. We'll cover as many as we possibly can, and we may ask you to speak as well. Lovely. So we'll hear a bit from David, and then we've got a couple of slides from Gordon, which I'll attempt to share, and then off we go with some questions. Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. I'm David Smith, one of the founders of Cleeveley Electric Vehicles with my business partner, Matt Cleeveley. We've just entered into our 8th year, and as Jackie mentioned, we are based in Cheltenham, where we have a workshop and our indoor showroom next door. We're more than just selling cars. We're completely independent. So we offer a sort of informal chats or advice on if you're looking to get an electric car, charging, etc. And then so we can back that all up with our workshop for service, MOT, repairs, etc. And we carry most parts for most EVs in stock as well. So we've got a good parts department as well. Again, that's grown over the years, and even to our other business, our mobile servicing business, we've just employed this month our 14th mobile technician, covering most of the country, from right up the north right down to the south as well. So that's grown over the last 5 years as well. So like I say, we're more than just selling cars, and myself, I've been driving electric vehicles for 8 years now as well.
Thanks, David. And I know we've got a whole lot of questions, but I'm sure that people who come to you, especially for their first EV, have got very similar ones, which are: what does it cost to run an EV? How does charging work? And can you really do long journeys? So Would you agree that those are the ones that tend to come up over and over?
Yeah, most questions. So over the years, there's a lot more choice. Most manufacturers have got at least one model on the market. Some have obviously got more than that, but that has brought prices down. So our stocks changed over the years from the early things like the Nissan Leaf, the Renault Zoe, etc. We've got all makes and models now. Most of our cars are sort of between 3 to 5 years old, and they because there's that much choice, they are a lot cheaper than they ever were. Cost of running them is also very cheap over the years of ownership. With most people will charge at home if they have that capability, and most people will charge at night time when their electricity is cheaper. Or if they're lucky enough to have solar or battery storage, then again, that makes it even more viable. Running costs, on average, a sort of a minor service with ourselves, you're looking around about £140, including your VAT and everything. So minimal cost compared to a traditional sort of ICE vehicle. Less components, so a lot less parts to go wrong, so a lot less to service, but then the price reflects that as well. EVs, being electric, they're all like driving an automatic, so very, very easy to drive, very enjoyable to drive. They can be a lot of fun, depending on the make and model. And on average, I'd say now most vehicles on the market will give you realistically a minimum of around about 200 miles, which is deemed enough for most people. There are ones that will do a little bit less, but there's also ones that will do considerably more as well. Obviously, the bigger the battery, the further you'll go, but the bigger the price tag as well. So that's sort of a brief overview. Definitely got better over the years. Certainly very reliable. We've got technology where we can provide a state of health report from a third party that shows you what the current high voltage battery is at. On average, most of them are in the mid 90% on a car that's 3 to 5 years old, which is, it's fantastic. The stuff we've heard in the media over the years that they say, oh, we have to throw that car away after 8 years is, yeah, absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
Look after it right. Very simple tips to do that, and honestly, they will just keep going and going.
Thanks, David. Well, I think there's probably quite a few things in what you've said that have left a few people not battered, slightly baffled,
Okay.
because I think there's quite a lot that you don't know about an electric car till you've driven an electric car. So let's just see. Could I get you to either with your little Zoom hand, everybody, or your actual hand, just put up a hand if you already drive an electric car and have got some experience. Now, some people haven't got their video on, so can you put up your little Zoom hands? Got a bit of waving. Okay, so we've got quite a few there. So you talked about an ICE car, but that's a petrol or diesel car, isn't it? So you're comparing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some more waving going on there. Thank you. Uh, yeah, and the battery issues. Let's switch to Gordon with who's going to answer a quite important. Thanks, Gordon. ICE refers to internal combustion engine. Well, I mean, I think if you're in the business, you could talk about an ICE car, but if you're not, you don't. So anyway, there we are. Um, Gordon, I've got a couple of slides from you, and Gordon's going to answer some questions, really, if I can manage to share his slides, about the aspects of efficiency of cards. So let's see if I can get this one to come and share nicely.
Okay, thanks, Jackie.
Um, Let me just do my slideshow thing.
Thanks. Yeah. So, yeah, the real point is why are we here today? Why are we here to discuss this? Why do we want to move to electric cars? Just a reminder for all that, in case you're wondering what all this is about. But overall, it's due to the energy use, and it's both the total quantity that we use in order to move from A to B, and very importantly, how much carbon dioxide we produce when moving. So one frequently omitted fact from the discussion of all this is for 1 kilowatt hour of energy, so that's the same units, a kilowatt hour, as are listed on your gas and electricity bills. So most energy is measured in terms of a kilowatt hour. That can also apply to petrol or diesel. So an average petrol or diesel car will only travel 1 mile for 1 kilowatt hour because the engine and the whole system is only 15 to 20% efficient. All the rest of that lovely petrol or diesel, it gets wasted in terms of heat. And an electric car will travel 4 to 5 miles. I mean, typically when they started, they were around 3 miles efficiency. That's increased over the past 10 years to 4 at least for most cars. Bigger and heavier ones will be less, and they can creep up to 5 miles, which is excellent. And that's because the overall system of movement, the electric motor, and the rest of the system is 85 to 95% efficient. So that's fundamentally making really good use of the difficult to generate low carbon electricity. And then it fits in with the whole model of why we're transitioning across to electricity. And so we go on to the next slide now. And this is an often discussed point about, okay, it's all very well that we're shifting over to electricity, but surely we won't have enough electricity to power all this. And I am thinking also of all the transition to heating and air source heat pumps that we discuss on this channel. But overall, if you look at the electricity demand in the UK, it's surprising for many people to see how much it's decreased, and that's in the total amount of energy consumed as listed by the National Grid each year. Latest figures up to 2024. And as you can see, that's a big decrease, and that's due to efficiency savings, some reduction in heavy industry in the UK, and things it's not inconsiderable because of the transition to LED lighting by everybody. So there is capacity there, which will be taken up by electric car charging. But as David mentioned, the other advantage about electric car charging is that a lot of the bulk charging will occur at night when we actually use far less electricity at the moment, and it's quite difficult to keep it all in balance for the large amount that we use during the day. So it's an asset to the grid to have people make use of the electricity at night as well. So that's all bonding together, and as you can see, we will get up to the same levels we were in 2010 and around that time, particularly when you add in air source heat pumps and other uses of electricity. But we've got quite a head start. So we do need more generation, and that's being planned for, and as is all the grid being necessary to reinforce the grid. And you will see that going on, and that needs to be supported as well. So I'll leave it there for now, but I put my email on the first slide in case this causes questions. Sometimes it does, which you can mull over and feel free to contact me or via HGN. Okay, thanks.
Great. Thanks for that, Gordon. And on charging, I think maybe that's one of the things that often is a concern for people. So, David, could you just explain how, for most people, charging is going to work and how it varies by type of charger, type of car, and the charges that they can take? And then we might get some inputs from Gordon and Ant and myself, as we need female inputs on the call. Thank you.
Yeah, well, all EVs nowadays they're all standard charging. So it's a system what they call Type 2 for any home charging. Now, if you have a driveway, you can have a charge point on the side of your house or garage or something. That will be a Type 2 charger, which simply you just unhook the cable and plug into your car. That will be up to a 7.2 kilowatt hour. That's the maximum you can have on a domestic supply. And that will, you can either set the charger itself or the car to charge at night time, as we alluded to, when it's sometimes cheaper to charge at night time on your tariff. Or cars as well, you can get a charge cable that you can simply plug into any normal 3-pin domestic socket. Now, this is a slower way of charging, sometimes referred to as a granny charger because it is a lot slower, around about 2.2, 2.3 kilowatt hour. So it'll take considerably longer. It can be done. I wouldn't recommend doing it permanently or over years and years on an electric vehicle. But it can be done while you're, say, sorting out your charge point, or if you're away visiting family or friends or something, you have the opportunity to do that. Um, that's your home charging, very standard nowadays. Public charging, rapid charging, again, is all standard nowadays. A lot easier than it ever used to be. Many years ago, you used to have an app for this charger, an app for that one, or a membership card. Most chargers now, you simply just unhook the cable that's provided, plug it into your car, and tap your payment card or phone to start the charge, and then tap it to stop. And you will get your average 80% charge will be between 20 to 30 minutes on most EVs nowadays on a public charger. If you don't have, I've seen one of the questions come through, if you don't have off-road parking, then yes, that's going to be a bit more of a challenge. But most cars, as I say, will do at least 200 miles. Most people's journeys, and on average, are no more than 18 miles a day. A lot of the big supermarkets have chargers. So if you're going to do your weekly shop, you're there for 30 minutes, an hour, you can easily get your weekly charge done there, if that's an option. Or obviously using other public chargers. There are companies out there that are working with local authorities to put street charging in, converting lampposts because there's power already there to have chargers. Obviously, that means then you'd always have to park somewhere. That's going to be more of a challenge. There's another company called Connected Curb where they're putting sort of like almost like a small inlay into the pavement, and the cable goes in that way as well, so no one would trip over it, and you could still get a wheelchair or a pram or something over the cable. So there are solutions. It is trickier, not going to lie, if you haven't got off-street parking.
David, could I just interrupt? As
Mm.
I think Ant has experience of this. Is that right, Ant? That you don't actually have a dedicated charger where you live?
No, we don't. We live in an apartment block in the centre of Hereford,
Hmm.
and we don't have an EV charger because there isn't enough power to the city to allow us to have an EV charger, which is completely crackers, but that's the state of the situation for us. So we public charge currently all the time, which is a tad expensive, but we haven't been able not to charge yet, but it's getting closer now. There are more EVs about, and more. We need more public chargers in Hereford, certainly. But yeah, charging is a lot easier than it ever was. But there are more electric vehicles, so chargers are busier, a lot busier. So yeah, yeah. I go down to the swimming pool, which is where I originally met Jackie when she was charging her car and I was charging mine. So, but yeah, we got a 50 kilowatt rapid charger down there, but it's very busy these days. So yes.
Yeah, so not straightforward, but I've
No.
had experience of using those lamppost chargers fairly often, David, on trips to London. And yeah, they work they work fine, I think. Um, Gordon, you probably know about more about what's going on with
I've just
the.
put a note in the chat about it as well. The Herefordshire Council are indeed focused on this and are looking at two methods of allowing cables to go across the pavement in an agreed and safe way. The most likely of the two is not the connected curb that David mentioned, but they are looking at that as well. But it's basically a rubber, heavy-duty rubber cover for the cable, as is used around roadworks and things like that.
Okay,
And they're going to be confirming that during this year, we hope.
yeah, great. But David, we interrupted you with the subject of charging from home when you can't charge at home. Um, you were talking about the different kinds of cars, different speeds of chargers. So I know the answer to this, but can any car charge on a fast charger?
Nowadays, yes, some of the older cars, there wasn't that facility, but most EVs nowadays have all got either home or public charging capabilities. Some of the cars from, I don't know, the early Nissan Leaf, Renault Zoes didn't have that capability for public charging, but the newer versions of those do nowadays as well. So yes, as Gordon and Ant both said, it's a lot easier than it ever used to be. But also, quite rightly, there are a lot more cars out there, but the infrastructure has improved and charging speeds have got better because the newer cars on the road are able to charge quicker as well. And as I said before, if you do own an electric car and you do charge at home, you're not using the public charging network that often. I mean, I'm lucky enough, obviously, I can charge at work. My wife charges her car here at home as well. Um, if we go away maybe twice a year in this country, then I maybe use a public charger twice a year, but otherwise I'm either charging at home or at work. So it's not so much of an issue anymore.
Yeah, thank you. One other question while we're talking about charging is how it works if somebody has solar panels at home and optimizing those so that you can benefit from your homegrown electricity to charge the car. That might be a Gordon question.
Yes, we did a talk, and you can still see it on the YouTube channel for HTN about 18 months ago about utilizing energy from solar panels, and I showed how it could be used either for, in that case, an air source heat pump or charging your own car. And yeah, it does all add up, and I entirely recommend it to anyone that can have a PV array. It fits in like a glove, really. Um, that combined with cheap rate charging at night covers the winter period very usefully as well, when you obviously can't expect to charge up from solar. Although I must admit, we have had some sunny days, and particularly when it was snowy, I was charging the car at over 4 kilowatts. So that was a bonus over Christmas. So yeah, it all works. Happy to answer any questions on that.
Yeah, and I'll just say that we have a 4 kilowatt solar roof and charge at home, and we opted, although there are much more sophisticated ways of doing this, we opted to have a slow charger, 3 kilowatt rather than seven, because that way we were never going to be trying to draw more power by day when we were charging than we needed to. So there's a choice to charge more slowly, and but not be drawing from the grid in summer. But there are sophisticated ways of doing that, aren't there, with these charge optimizers that I think you just mentioned, Gordon?
Yes, that's right. I mean, I use a charger from a company called My Energy, and as well as the evening um, grid, it also takes signals from the grid and reduces my car charging when I don't particularly need it to be charged quickly, and they'll pay me back a fee that the national grid is paying, so it can make other uses of the energy at night if it wishes to, and it only reduces my charging by about 10 or 20%. So you still have a car that has a certain amount of charge. So you can, for example, if you know that you're only going to use, or you need about 150 to 200 miles range, you can be absolutely sure the car is charged to that. But if you want to go higher than that, then and the car can do it, then you can sign up to these schemes, and you'll get £10 or £15 back, something like that, per month.
Yeah. Um, David, have you ever heard of anybody actually not getting to their destination because their battery ran empty? or at least
I don't.
in recent years?
I've had a few narrow escapes in the early years, but nowadays, no, because the cars are a lot more efficient as well. If you drive a car hard, again, whether it's petrol, diesel, or electric, you're going to use up more fuel or more range on an electric car. If you're driving it normally, most cars have some sort of eco mode as well if you're doing a long distance. So most of the range on the dashboard are pretty accurate on most vehicles, and we're you wouldn't run out of petrol, so you're not really going to run out. I don't know of anyone personally that's ever done it. You hear of these random stories sometimes in the news and that it's happened. You've got access to a lot more chargers, public chargers nowadays as well, so there shouldn't really be any excuse if you've planned your journey. Also, if you are a member of the breakdown services, AARAC, they're a lot more geared up for rescuing people if they did. Unfortunately, they will come out to you in their diesel van with their diesel generator and give you a boost. But if needs must, then needs must, sort of thing. But yeah,
Thanks.
I
I've never heard of
no.
anybody either, and certainly having taken a small, not very big range Renault Zoe up to the far northwest of Scotland, totally no problem. That particular car wouldn't charge very fast, so coffee stops were slightly long. But with a more modern car, it's honestly, by the time you've stopped somewhere, had the kind of break you probably want to have every 2 or 3 hours, shoved a bit more juice in, off you go. I think there's a bit of a mentality switch, though, isn't there? That you might just charge when you stop as opposed to stopping to charge. And Gordon, would you agree that that's the case?
Yeah, I'd just say that that's destination charging when you get to your destination, which is good, and a lot of places have chargers now that you can use. But yeah, there is also, I mean, with the increased range that you get these days, and I'm driving a Kia EV3, and we've actually seen 403 miles on the guessometer, as I call it. So you don't often need to charge en route, but if you are a commercial driver or traveller, then yeah, charging en route is a lot easier than it ever was. But destination charging is there, which is also very good. So yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the other point is that the cars themselves are all improving to tell you this is how much or how little you need in order to get to your destination. So that's really good from lots of different points of view. It saves you money in using the nationally available public chargers, and it also frees them up because people don't just sit there and fill up all the time. They do as much as they need and then move on, and so that frees them up for somebody else to use, and that's the whole intention of the scheme, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really is a difference, isn't it? That if you get somewhere and they're not available, someone is always about to leave rather than having sat them there. That's on a long journey. But obviously, if you're going to, a day out at a country park or something, or a railway station with chargers, they tend to be designed so that they will. So that a car will be charging for a longer period because you don't want them out of action, high-speed ones that are then sitting blocked by people. And certainly my experience is, just as you say, David, that the ones that you can just wave a card at now it makes life so much easier. Particularly all those village halls that people install charges at in a very well-meaning way and say, oh, we must get the most, the most ethical charger. And then people pitch up and it's some ethical charger that nobody ever heard of, and you can't get the app because there isn't a phone signal. And, that there's a lot to be said for the lovely simplification. I don't know if you noticed, but earlier in this week, the government actually announced another initiative to support people to switch to EVs and to put even more infrastructure in. And I'll give you some figures in a little bit on just how many vehicles, electric vehicles are joining, have come onto the market. Now, what about actually driving them? When we've got our first EV, I remember they were often flagged up as perfect city car. And there were we, 10 miles from a petrol station, twisty country roads. And I thought, what absolute garbage. This isn't a city car. This is the perfect car for living in the countryside. You can whiz around. Oh, I've got a nodding there from Dave. You can whiz around corners. It's absolutely lovely. You don't have to kind of clonk around changing gears the whole time and using extra fuel. And you don't have to drive miles to refill. But I don't know if other people have got questions specifically about driving them. All I can say is super easy. You don't have smelly petrol. That's really so nice. Or diesel. Water, we get a lot of flooded roads where we are. And I have had a few moments of thinking, go through or not go through. On balance, I think the EVs do slightly better. I'm not talking about going exhaust pipe deep, even if we had one, but thoughts on that? Gordon,
They're,
David?
they're very well, the batteries are very well protected, etc. So yeah, I would never advise on any car going through deep flood water. But yeah, you should be all right going through low level water, etc. There's no real issue with that at all. And as you said, yeah, they are great fun to drive. And they can become more economical when if you are doing twisty lanes up and down hills, etc., more so than a constant speed on a motorway, and they can become a lot more efficient as well when you drive in those sort of country roads. And as you said, a lot of fun as well in some cars.
Yeah, thank you. Gordon or Ant, have you got any thoughts on driving in tough conditions? I mean, how about snow? Because you the normally speaking, the wheels of an electric car spin a bit faster, don't they? There's a lot of torque on them, and that can make snow trickier. Though our current car has a snow setting. Any thoughts or experience on
There's
that?
two points there, isn't there? The one about the water. So yeah, as David said, I definitely wouldn't recommend to drive through particularly deep water, but you don't have that repeating problem with an exhaust car where one of the biggest dangers is water going back up the exhaust, and if it does get into the engine, then generally it's a written off engine. Yeah, there's a channel on YouTube or somewhere that I believe monitors a particular ford in the east of the country, and they're always they have been in the past fairly critical of electric cars going through and think, oh, they'll never get through. This is going to be fun to watch, and they find the electric cars breeze through with no problems at all. So yeah, it's just from that point of view, it seems to be quite good, quite well insulated. But I wouldn't push it. They're certainly not a boat. And in terms of snow, the interesting thing in Scandinavian countries is that is how few four-wheel drive vehicles there are as a general comment. So that's nothing to do with EVs. So it does depend for those countries that they're using winter tires and sometimes with studs on, but they have been really, really accepting of electric vehicles in general, and the four-wheel drive electric vehicles, some of them use obviously an electric four-wheel drive system. They've been absolutely brilliant in in the countries with high levels of snow and ice. So very controllable and very good.
Yeah, thank you. We've got a few questions. We've not had very many questions in on the chat yet. Jim Hardy, has said he drives a, what is it, 9-year-old van with a range of 80 miles, so that needs regular charging, and he has run out. So sorry to hear that, Jim, but only when he got lost. But we have got some questions about purchasing a used vehicle. And I think it's quite interesting, isn't it? Initially, because EVs were new to the market, there weren't very many used EVs available. But now that's starting to change. That's really something that you specialize, isn't it, David, rather than new ones off the peg, so to speak.
Absolutely, yeah. We only sell used EVs, not brand new ones. You're absolutely right. Years ago, there wasn't much choice, and they were expensive by comparison of today. There y- y- there are cars out there still. You can get your lower end if you just need something for a little run around that will do 50, 60 miles. Then an old Nissan Leaf, you can get into one of those for around about 3 or 4 grand, for example. But then you can go right up the level to depending on people's budget, and everyone's budget's different. Whether you just need a little run around, whether it's going to be a second car in the family, or if it's going to be the main sort of family car. On average, our cars that we stock for sale on between 12 to 15,000 pounds. But these are all ones that will quite comfortably do your 200 miles plus. And prices have come down. For example, a Kia e-Niro, which is probably the car we sold most of in 2025, very sought after. The higher end cars of those, they were, new, they were getting towards £40,000 when they were new, where we were selling them between 13 to £15,000 on average. So still within the manufacturer's warranty, super reliable, super efficient as well. To that fact that I actually brought my wife one in August. That's how good they are. So yeah, so there's a lot of cars out there. The Hyundai and Kia South Korean stuff is excellent. They've come on leaps and bounds over the years. They really are very good cars, very good value for money. A lot of the Chinese stuff, love it or hate it. MGs, we love the MGs, our mobile servicing guys. That we've got 14 MG5s now on the road. So from a business perspective, we need something that's reliable, and they've been really, really good. And another big one out there is BYD. They're coming on leaps and bounds as well. Don't know an awful lot about them, so they're still quite new. So we'll see what they're like. But first impressions are efficient, good quality build, etc. as well. So with any car, again, whether it's petrol, diesel, electric, you want something that's going to be reliable as well. We seem to be stocking more higher mileage cars, EVs. And with testing them as well, they seem to be a lot more efficient sometimes than your lower mileage cars because they've been used. And as I said before, we can provide a state of health report on the battery. So it's a completely independent report. There's no fudging of the figures, so to speak, on that. But they've come out on average, mid 90s, which is fantastic. We're selling cars. Some of the Kia Niros are over 100,000 miles, still at 98%. I mean, that's fantastic.
So you mean the battery that used to be 100%
Hmm.
efficient or have 100% of its capacity has only
Yep.
degraded by 2%? I suppose.
Anywhere between 2 to 5% on average. Some are a little bit less, but I think any car that's between 3 to 5 years old that's still 90% plus is fantastic. You will always get your degradation in anything with a battery in, like your phone, your laptop, etc. And most manufacturers recommend just charging it to 80%. So don't leave it permanently charged at 100. Let it run down to 20 to 30%. and then charge it up. And as I say, most people's journeys, you can get away with 80% for daily use. If you know you're going away the next day or the day after, then you charge it up to 100% ready for your longer journey.
But essentially, the more electricity that you're trying to cram into the battery, the tougher it gets on the battery as you're charging those final few percent, I guess,
Mm.
which is a bit like kind of shoving stuff into a suitcase and having to sit on it. It all gets a bit stressful. You can do it, but it
If
probably
yeah,
isn't good for the
if you're
suitcase if you
doing
do it
it.
every week.
Yeah, if you're not, I mean, in the early days of the old Nissan Leafs, there was no real home charging. So people were just charging on a little 3-pin and maybe popping to the shops and then coming back and charging it back up again. And we now know that just didn't do the batteries any good. It's like, again, with your petrol car, you wouldn't pop to the shops and then fill it back up on the way back. You sort of let it run down a little bit before you fueled it back up. Um, we found with 3 pins, because it's like a trickle charge, it's normally quite good to charge them to 100% then, because it sort of helps balancing the batteries, because it's a much slower charge. If you're just charging on your public charger or your proper home charger, then 80% is normally enough for most, and most manufacturers of EVs will recommend 80% as well. But that's what we're seeing and coming through our showroom as well. And the batteries are in very, very good condition.
Thank you. We've got a question actually from Sam Mellows, who's saying, once a battery's gone past that 90% point, do they then drop off more quickly with degradation, or is there?
It again all depends how you look after it. In theory, no, there's no reason why they would do that. We see a lot of the Teslas out there, the Model 3, Model Ys, the newer cars. In their first sort of 3 years, they can be down to 90 or even 88%, but then they seem to like just sort of level out. It's all to do this with the makeup of how the batteries are made, and at the end of the day, an electric car is basically a giant computer on wheels. So it's all to do with software. We found through the workshop any early teething issues with new cars is normally down to software. And I think most manufacturers can probably tweak the software to make them more efficient if they want to. It just depends how the battery's been made. But as times come on, like with any technology, stuff's getting better and better.
Yeah, that's great. Now, have we got any more questions from our audience? One is saying, why shouldn't I charge permanently at home on a 3-pin socket? But I think you've answered that.
I mean, some people do, because you are looking on average to have a charge point installed. You're looking around about £1,000 these days, which is a large sum of money if you just been out and bought an electric vehicle. I would, if you do decide to buy an electric vehicle and you do have a driver, I would still highly recommend having a charge point installed, because it will be quicker to charge it and will be better for the vehicle long term. You can charge it 3-pin, and people do charge them with a 3-pin. It's just, like I say, it's just a trickle charge. So again, depending on the make and model of the car, if it's something newer, then yes, in theory, it should be okay. But I would always recommend charging on a home charger. The opposite end is, if you find a high mileage car, we don't buy private hires, because if it's a private hire car, i.e. a taxi, it could have been rapid charged or public charged 2 or 3 times a day, and that's a big jolt of power into that battery every single day, and that again long term that won't do it very good. In extreme cases, on some of the older Leafs, it can sort of expand the battery packs, and then you're in a whole world of pain, unfortunately.
Thanks, David. I see Ant's got his hand
Yeah,
up with a
just
comment.
if I may jut in, friend of ours charges on a 3-pin socket. And the issue with the 3-pin sockets, as I understand it, and I'm no expert on this, but having practical experience of it, they're not designed to take 2.2 kilowatts for 8 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours at a time. However, we have found a socket that is EV rated. I'll put that in inverted commas. And after 18 months, this socket failed. So we've put an EV rated socket on this outlet for them to charge. And they specifically just charge off 13 amps. No problem at all. I have a cousin also who charges his Tesla off 13 amps. So we're going to see how this supposed EV rated socket lasts, if it will do okay. But
That's really interesting. But beware the person who doesn't have, I mean, you can't just use an extension cord, can you, if you can't get close to that socket?
No,
No.
don't use an extension cord.
Don't use an extension cord. Yeah.
And have it
Well,
properly wired.
Yeah, a couple of practical points here because I've been trying to charge since 2008 at various points. In the UK, as you say, Anne, quite rightly, it's not wise to use a 13 amp connection for a 13 amp continuous charge. In fact, it's not designed to do that. So you would bring down a charger to 10 amps, and most chargers should be set up for the UK. And originally, cars that were available in the UK, even up to 2015, were still being supplied with the wrong chargers for the UK. But if you charge at 10 amps, or even if things start to get warm, like the plug itself, you can have chargers that can drop that to 8 amps, and then that is stable and continuous, and you don't harm the socket. If you definitely can't charge at 13 amps, although most chargers will inhibit you from being able to do that anyway, if they're safe and designed properly.
That's interesting. We've got two questions I've not asked yet. One is one about software updates. We'll come back to that in a mo. And we had one talking about different chemical composition of batteries. I think all car batteries these days are lithium. Is that right?
Yeah, I think most of them are lithium nowadays. As they're looking at newer, there's always been look at newer sort of man-made sort of materials to make it cheaper and a bit more kinder on the environment, etc. as well. Yes, I think most of them are lithium these days. And again, with any new technology that will come out in the future, I think that will be expensive to start with before it goes mainstream. But they're always looking at getting, more powerful batteries, making them smaller, etc. So you can compact more things in to enable you to potentially go further. But I personally think that might be a little while off yet.
Mm. And then there is, some people are concerned, aren't they, about the sort of end of life for vehicle batteries. Well, first of all, what you've said is that the life can be very long indeed for car
Yes.
batteries, but then there is repurposing and recycling. And I
Yep.
don't think there's any question of lithium batteries just kind of being chucked into landfill. It's far, far, far too valuable for that. So,
Well, there's special licenses, and there are companies out there that will dispose of them for you. We do an upgrade program for old Nissan Leafs where we can put a bigger battery in for customers, and then we have the old batteries on our shelf. So they have various uses. They've either gone to people who want to do home storage solutions. They'll be more than capable of doing that for the average house, or off-grid projects like on boats and things like that. We've donated quite a few to universities and colleges for people to sort of take to bits and learn about it, even to the fact where we had a film crew come in to film Matt taking one to bits because they were going to teach a robot how to do it. So no, we absolutely don't really throw anything away like that. So they do have a use. They're not. They used to be worth quite a bit of money, but they're not anymore. But people will buy them for their sort of own home storage solutions and things like that, and they seem very, very popular. So just
yeah.
via eBay, for example.
And that's interesting. I didn't know that was a kind of DIY thing, but then again, there's always Gordon, who would do these things. I wouldn't fancy taking a screwdriver to one myself, but of course, the battery in an electric car, the capacity of it is huge compared with the sort of storage that a person might have installed at their house for, which is typically 6 kilowatt hours of storage, isn't it? And a car battery is likely to be 50 to 70. Is that the typical range, David?
The old batteries we take out of Nissan Leaf are either the old 24s or 30 kilowatt hours. Obviously, they would have degraded, but yes, you're right. They'd be considerably more than your average 6 or 10 kilowatt hour battery you'd have at home. Most cars nowadays, I would say, between about 50 to 100 kilowatts hours.
Yeah. So that is many times larger than a home storage battery. And of
mm.
course, the next step is to be able to, sorry, I'm getting a message. The the next stage is to actually link electric vehicles to the home power supply so that they are working with the grid, isn't it, to support the grid and support households in power cuts. And I think that we've got vehicle to home to some extent with some models, I think, but vehicle to grid would be
Yeah, they've been
the next
talking about
stage.
that for a long time. V to G, which is vehicle to grid, or V2L, vehicle to load. There are cars out there that are capable of that. There was a company called Indra that were trialing the V2G things, and the Nissan Leafs had a slightly different charging system, the old ones, and they were quite geared up for that. But that was years ago, and it didn't really go anywhere. We were hoping that would become more mainstream nowadays. I believe Octopus have teamed up with BYD to offer that sort of facility now as well. But if you read the T's and C's, i.e., the small print, there's quite. I don't think it's quite there yet. It's not quite as good as
Mm,
it's sounding to be. But yes, it can be done, or it will be done, but it's just not quite there yet, I don't
not
think.
quite there yet. Yeah.
So, but yes, you can use your car that you can drive to the shops in, but then as a home storage solution that's just sitting on your drive. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, excuse me.
I mean,
Um,
in general, Jackie, just on that point, there's many different applications ready to go for second-hand batteries, but many of the companies that have started trying to do this have found the availability and failure rate of batteries hasn't been anything like what was expected, and therefore they haven't got the source of batteries that they need.
because they keep on going.
Mm.
That's great news, really. We've got a question saying, are hybrids now a waste of time from Elizabeth? Um,
Yes,
yes.
Yes.
Why would you do that? It's like carrying around two whole systems to fuel your car. So, yeah.
Hybrids have their place if you are doing long mileage, if you're on the road for work or you are a taxi driver, for example, because they are quite efficient and obviously you don't have to worry about charging them up. But if it's just sort of a run around or a second car, then absolutely, you've got your petrol engine, then you've got your small high voltage battery as well. So you've still got the expense of servicing that vehicle. You've got potential of more things going wrong because you've got two technologies in there as well. So that in the early days they had their place, but I don't know, not a fan of hybrids.
Thank you. Well, we've just got 1 or 2 minutes left, folks. So do give us a wave if you've still got some questions that you'd like to be answered. But otherwise, I think I'm just going to ask David about that. Oh, and Scott, Hugo, and
Sorry,
hi.
Jackie, just wanted to mention that finding an electric charger these days is dead easy, so long as you've got a mobile phone. If you haven't got a mobile phone, you're not going to be able to find an electric charger if you go away from your local area. But I'm just going to say out there, ZapMap is a wonderful app for charging, which you can leave a message on to say how the charger was. So if you're looking to go a long distance, you can look up at that charger and see whether it's working or not. If people post, but not many people post these days. They haven't got time, but I always post if I find a good charger. But yeah, that's just one thing to say. Sat map, brilliant.
That is great, and I completely agree. ZapMap is a website. It's really the app. It's absolutely super to use, and so you just look at the map, and it will show you all the chargers that are available. They're different colours depending on how fast they work. So if you know you need a high-speed one, you can go for the pink, and if you need a slow one, you can go for the green or whatever. And then when you click on them, it will give you all the information about the nature of them, how many there are, how fast they're going, if one's out of order. And it's absolutely super. But what I'll also say is that if you're driving on your own and you need to charge, you know, what you can't always tell is whether the blooming thing that you're heading for is actually available. So it can be useful to have a backup team at home to just have a quick look for you as you do that final few miles. If you can make a phone call safely from the car as you go along. I wanted to mention ZapMap though as well, Anne, because as well as they have a lot of background information, lot of forums and stacks of information on buying a car, etc. And in fact, I've got a bit of information that I gleaned from ZapMap, which I'll just use now, which is to say that at the end of December 2025, there are 1,800,000 fully electric cars in the UK, which means 5.3% of the cars on the roads at the moment. But across 2025, 23.4% of new cars were electric. And in the third quarter of 2025, a record 80,614 used battery electric cars were sold, which was 40% up on the previous year. So that really is quite a change. So, David, any words to leave us with? And then I think we'll say farewell to everybody and thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for dialing in. If you need any advice or have any questions at all, if you are considering an electric car or even upgrading your current electric car, then Cleeveley EV, just either drop me an email, give me a call. We'll be happy to have a chat, informal, no pressure at all. If you ever want to pop down to see us, we're just by the train station in Cheltenham on the Lansdowne Industrial Estate. Thank
And
you.
you have got a really good coffee shop opposite.
Exceptional coffee shop, yes. And also, if you want something a little bit more stronger, then we've got the Dare Brewery just over the road as well. So we're ticking many boxes.
Yeah, that's lovely. Well, look, thank you so much to everyone who's taken part today. And in particular, David, thank you. And
No
as I
problem.
said, we will be sending everybody who registered the link to the recording. And we'll also send you links to people like ZapMap and other sources of news that we've got. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Bye
Goodbye.
bye.
Goodbye.